Mr. Tapscrew. In the market that day, there happened to be a man from a fair. The fair was in the next town at the time, and it moved around, as fairs do. But this man had to come to Roger's town because he heard a rumor that he wanted to investigate. He was the proprietor of one of the shows in the fair, and his name was Oliver Tapscrew. Early that evening, Mr. Tapscrew was standing at the bar of the Black Horse, a pint of bitter in his hand and a fat cigar in his mouth, talking to the owner of the jellied eel stall from the market.
"I heard tell of something odd recently," said Mr. Tapscrew. "I don't know if I heard right. Something about a boy who's really a rat. You ever heard of something like that?"
"Rats?" said the jellied eel man.
"No. Used to be a plague of 'em.
But the mayor and corporation got a first-class firm of exterminators in. They exterminated everything in sight.
Rats, mice, cockroaches, fleas, lice, you name it, whipped 'em out. Clean as a whistle. Place is so clean now, I don't even have to wipe my stall down. Thanks, I'll have another."
Mr. Tapscrew reminded not to eat any jellied eels when he was there.
"They ain't really been exterminated," said a horse dealer. "Rats and mice, you couldn't. They're cunning, they are. They got cunning blood. They took samples of the poison and they learned how to digest it. I shouldn't wonder if there was a race of super rats down the sewers, like fangs like that. And a hatred for the whole human race. The rat's time is coming. You mark my words."
Mr. Tapscrew listened and brought more pints of beer, and noticed with satisfaction that although nobody knew anything about rats or boys who'd been rats, they all enjoyed a good shiver when they thought about them. Good shivers were good business. He sipped his beer while his fertile brain played with the notion of rats, super rats, rat boys, a whole freak show of rat humans, owned and trained and exhibited by Oliver Tapscrew. No, Professor Tapscrew. That would look good on the back of a sign. He would have it painted as soon as he got it back. Then he felt a hand on his arm and turned to see a small greengrocer with a dapper little moustache.
"Excuse me," said the greengrocer. "That rat boy you was talking about, I just seen him."
"My dear fellow," said Mr. Tapscrew. "Do you know him then? Where is he?"
"If he's who I think he is," said the small man, "he'd been taken by neighbours of mine. You wouldn't think he was a rat. Really, he looks just like a boy, but he's got an unnatural appetite. There's something uncanny about it. Mark my words." "Did you say you'd seen him?" said Mr. Tapscrew. "Yes, just going down that valley over there. Looked furtive."
"Thanks," said Mr. Tapscrew.
"Have a drink, old man." He thrust some money into the greengrocer's hand and hurried off down the valley. It was a grubby little place between the Munical workplace and the Hotel Salmagundi. At first, Mr. Tapscrew couldn't see a living creature there. By hearing a soft clatter, he stopped to look behind a mound of empty cardboard boxes and wine bottles and soggy vegetable crates. There he saw a small boy, crouching by a tipped-over dustbin, scooping something creamy out of a carton. He looked up, and Mr. Tapscrew noted with pleasure the boy's quick-moving jaws, the appalling stink from the dustbin, and the bright black eyes that looked right back at him. "Tell me," said Mr. Tapscrew, "I wonder if by any chance you might happen to be the boy who used to be a rat?"
"Yes," said Roger.
"Only now I'm—" "Good, excellent. I didn't mean to knock the dustbin over, only Don't worry about it, dear boy. Come with me." Reluctantly abandoning the last of the smoked salmon mousse that had been in the dustbin for 6 days, Roger took Mr. Tapscrew's hand and walked away with him, because he thought he ought to be a good boy. "Where's he gone?"
When Roger didn't come back, Bob and Joan wasn't sure where they should start to worry. On one hand, he was with the Philosopher Royal, who was sure to be looking after him properly. On the other hand, the man had said he'd bring Roger back, and he hadn't. And on the third hand, there was the fact that Bob and Joan had never had a child to look after before, and didn't know what to expect or whether to ought to worry. And on the fourth hand, there was the fact that they were worrying about him already, because they were very fond of him, strange as he was. It was a good thing they only had 4 hands between them, or they would have been even more worried. Joan even snapped at Bob, a thing she hardly ever did. "What are you wasting your time with them silly slippers for?" she said. "No one's got feet that small, and what that leather must have cost I can't imagine." Bob was putting the last stitches in the scarlet slippers he'd been making. He looked up over his glasses and said, "If a cobbler can't do something for poor craftsmanship of it, it's a poor thing. It'd come in useful one day, don't you fret." He wasn't cross. He knew she was worried. When the old cuckoo clock struck 9, Bob put the slippers away and took off his glasses. "Well, that's late enough," he said. "I'm not going to wait any more. I'm going down to the palace to see what that man's been up to." "I'll come with you," said Joan. "I can't bear sitting waiting." "Funny, innit?" said Bob. "We've been sitting by this fire for 32 years, and it never seemed to be waiting before." They put on their hats and coats and went to the tradesmen's entrance by the palace. Some soldiers were playing football in the courtyard, and another was smoking and reading the paper in the sentry box, and took no notice. Bob and Joan could hear giggling from somewhere inside, and the sound of glasses clinking. "Yeah," said the maid who opened the door, and hiccuped, "Oops!" "We come for the little boy," said Bob firmly. "It's his bedtime. The gentleman who wanted to investigate him must be finished by now." The maid vanished, shutting them outside, after a few minutes, during which Bob and Joan had to blow on their hands and stamp up and down to keep warm. She'd come back. "Dr. Prosser said he has ran home," she said, and was about to close the door when Bob put his foot in it. "No, he didn't," said Bob. "I want a word with Dr. Prosser." The maid reluctantly opened the door. There was a party going on in the servants' hall, and she hurried them past along to the door of the Philosopher Royal's apartment. Oh dear," said the Philosopher Royal when he opened the door. "Where's our Roger?" said Joan. "He ran away, couldn't concentrate, just leapt out of the window and ran home." "Ah, but he didn't," said Bob. "He never turned up." "And what did you do with him?" said Joan. "A number of tests. They showed quite clearly that the boy is deranged, a psychotic personality disorder with paranoid delusions combined with fantasy identifications with figures of glamour, marked retardation of intellectual development. In short, he has a hopeless future. Thought you might find a useful occupation for him in some humble manual activity." "Never mind that," said Bob, who was getting hot and bothered. "We didn't send him to you to be tested because we wanted it. You wanted it. You come and took him, and now you lost him, and we want him back. What are you going to do about it?" "Ah," said the Philosopher Royal cleverly, smiling and shaking his head. No. "I think you're making an elementary error about the nature of language. When you say, 'You've lost him,' that simply seems to imply the notion of fault or blame of the whole discredited apparatus of causality. We don't talk in those terms anymore. As a matter of fact, meaning itself is a problematic concept, where nothing is final, everything is a matter of interpretation, into terms which themselves—" "I don't understand a word of that," said Bob. "But I'll tell you what, it makes me feel sick. You lost that little boy and there's an end of it. When did he go? Can you say that, I suppose?" The Royal Philosopher gulped. "About 3 o'clock, he said." Bob turned and walked away, but Joan hadn't finished. "Someone ought to smack you when you still did believe in things," she said. "It's too late now, or else I'll do it myself." And she took Bob's arm, and they went down the silent stairs, past the laughter in the servants' hall, past the soldiers playing football in the moonlight, and out of the palace grounds. "Where to now?" said Bob, as he took down over the chilly rooftops in the frosty air. "Don't know," she said. "We ain't just going to give up, though, are we, Bob?" "You're a silly old woman," he said. "We'll find him. Never mind how long it takes. We just need a clue, that's all. But I'm blessed if I know where to start.